Can you speak English?
Can you speak English?
What a nice suit. Now you look like an American.
What a nice suit. Now you look like an American. Wow.
If you want to do ministry, why don't you do it in your own country?
If you want to do ministry, why don't you do it in your country? As if this isn't their country. You speak English so well.
You speak English so well. I hate that. I think that people don't realize when people speak more than one language that they're so much smarter than people who only speak one.
What kind of Asian are you?
What kind of Asian are you? Oh my gosh. What kind of Asian are you?
Having worked in churches for over a decade, I've heard some very interesting comments. Being white, I haven't heard these comments. So these feel new and fresh. Not good. You speak English so well. Not a compliment. What kind of Asian are you?
I hate Asians. Someone actually said that out loud to someone. Okay.
Now, I really can't imagine saying that in a church setting.
I hate Asians. That one gives me a gut punch to think first that someone would hate other human beings and to have the ignorance to say that as if an entire ethnicity of people are somehow not fully human.
I know lots of Asians. My brother used to date a Filipino girl.
How did you get this job?
How did you get this job? Man.
What? I didn't recognize you without your costume.
I didn't recognize you without your costume. To reduce cultural attire to a costume. It's unsettling.
I just can't imagine saying that to another person.
What are you? You don't look American. Where are you really from? So I have a question. What does America look like? What does an American look like? How do you know? How do you determine what an American looks like?
What are you? You don't look American. Where are you really from? And this plays into this image that in order to be American, one would have to be white. And so anyone who is non-white becomes a hyphenated American.
No more made in China.
Ugh. No more made in China.
Is that your real name? As opposed to what else?
I baked you some cookies. Are there cookies in your country? What in the world?
Good grief.
I hate gays, I hate AIDS, and I hate Asians. That's a lot of hate.
That person has a lot to work through.
It makes me want to have a conversation with the person who said it. And a conversation would be putting it mildly, but...
I hate gays, I hate AIDS, and I hate Asians. And this is someone in a church saying freely they hate all of these things. They have not read the Bible.
He is trying to make this church a Korean church.
But, I mean, isn't that our job, though, as Christians, to make disciples? He didn't say make them only white, American, black, American only, and you can only worship with each other. I mean, you know what I'm saying? In your own place. I don't get it. It's so crazy to me because if a white pastor came to my church and came in the way he is, his full authentic self, I would never ask him, was he trying to make our church white?
Wow. The annual conference sent us a leftover pastor.
Who says that?
The annual conference sent us a leftover pastor. I didn't know that we had rankings.
Asian women are submissive.
Just a straight stereotype there. Ridiculous.
Asian women are submissive. That idea of Asian women are submissive is so dangerous. And when they are not read as submissive, we see things like what happened in Atlanta with the murder of Asian women disproportionately.
I don't know why the conference assigns people with accents and poor English. If the conference didn't assign people with poor English, there would not be many pastors around. Let's just put it that way.
Most people with an accent, this is at least their second language. So it's in no means a lack of intelligence. I would contend that it's hyper-intelligence.
Aren't Asians less discriminated against than African Americans since they're well educated?
This plays into this dangerous trope about Asians being the model minority, and then that pits all other minority groups against each other, while whiteness gets to demand and command the table.
Aren't Asians less discriminated against than African Americans since they're well educated? And African Americans aren't? Like, what?
That would be a no.
I think I've definitely heard a lot of those things, especially over the past year or 2 years. I think it's one thing, it's like a whole different level of awful when you realize that these things were said within a church environment or church community or came from Christians.
I think it's easy for us to think that racists only wear white hoods or do really bad things. And we've defined it wrong and therefore pretended like we're not a part of this. So I think it's a really important conversation.
It is so hard to listen to the concessions that my friends make to have successful appointments. We do a great disservice to our pastors and to our churches when we allow this kind of behavior to happen and don't call into accountability the harm that we do to our clergy.
I think it's also important to take time to build relationships with folks who are Asian and get to know folks and understand that the prejudices and the views and the racism that are embedded in our culture and embedded within how we're raised and the systems of power that we're participating in aren't reflective of our interactions once we get to know people. And that, I think, is the beauty of the connection of United Methodism, is that it brings us together and that we get to see and experience the fullness of the body of Christ. And we get a fuller picture of God, recognizing that we are all created in the image of God.
Just be willing to speak up more. I'm sure I have not done enough and said enough and spoken against these things enough, and I intend to do better.
I think this is definitely valuable, and also especially as I think about that very last quote, Asians aren't as discriminated against as other people in some way in our society. I think that's often an assumption by a lot of white people in our culture, especially this notion of the of an elite Asian that is free of this kind of discrimination and harassment.
I've been more pleased in the past year especially to see a lot of anti-racism workshops and classes and intentionality on the part of pastors from the pulpit especially to speak out against these types of things. I think the fact that all of these things were said in church contexts, had they been within the hearing of the pastor of that church, they have a responsibility to address it in that moment. So may I please be one of those pastors that speaks out in the moment.
We don't know each other, and I think that that we have to know each other in a way that's authentic and intentional. And I don't know that we have those spaces as much as we need them. And so I pray that all of us as clergy and as the church will advocate for safe space for conversation to be had.